They didn't even wait for the lawyer to speak. She'll get nothing. Dad hated her. That's the first thing my sister Karen said as I walked into the room. No greeting. No eye contact. Just those sharp words thrown like knives across the table, loud enough for everyone to hear. She wanted it to echo. The sentence hit me square in the chest. I gripped my son, Eli's hand a little tighter. He squeezed back, warm and trembling. I forced a thin, shaky smile down at him. He knew. He always knew when I was pretending to be okay. I hadn't even taken a seat, and already the message was clear. I wasn't welcome. I wasn't family. I was a loose end, and they were here to snip me clean. Karen sat at the head of the long table, polished and precise in a gray pantsuit, her dark hair pulled into that severe bun she wore like a crown when she wanted to feel superior. Her lipstick was sharp, war paint for a battle I hadn't even realized I was walking into. Then came the voice I dreaded more than hers. Uncle Rick. Dad's older brother leaned back in his chair with that smug smirk spreading across his face like oil on water. Even her kid knows she's worthless, he muttered, nodding at Eli like he wasn't even a person. Eli's eyes dropped to the floor. I felt something crack a little deeper inside me. Around the table, heads nodded. Cousins, old neighbors, family friends I hadn't seen in years. People who'd long since picked sides, and I wasn't on theirs. I swallowed hard. The air in the room felt like it hadn't moved in years. Thick with dust, leather, and Karen's aggressively sweet perfume. My heart thumped in my ears, each beat loud, hot, humiliating. I led Eli to the farthest chair at the end of the table, away from the pack. It creaked as I sat. Eli climbed up beside me, his legs swinging, his small hands folded neatly in his lap like he was trying to disappear. Karen slowly turned to look at me, her eyes locking with mine. She smiled, all teeth and venom. "You know this is pointless, right?" she said, her voice silky cold. "Dad rewrote the will. Cut you out completely. Said you were dead to him." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My tongue sat heavy in my mouth. I just nodded, barely as if I understood. But inside, all I could think was, why did I even come? I'd hoped, foolishly, for something. A note, a line, a sign that he remembered me. Something to make the years of silence mean something more than nothing. But instead, I'd walked straight back into the one place I swore I'd never return, surrounded by people who buried me long before they buried him. And just as I was about to stand, to leave before they started carving up the estate like vultures, the door creaked open. Mr. Connor, Dad's lawyer, entered, clutching a thick folder under one arm. Same neat suit, same tired eyes, same unreadable face. The room fell silent. Everyone straightened. This was it. I braced myself. I'd come expecting nothing, and that's exactly what I thought I'd get. But what no one in that room knew, not Karen, not Rick, not even me, was that my son Eli had brought something with him. Something none of them could have predicted. "You forgot the video," Eli said softly. And with that one sentence, everything started to unravel. It had been 8 years since I'd been in a room like this with my family. 8 years since I packed a suitcase, took 2-year-old Eli and walked away. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Because every conversation with my father ended in cold silence or cruel shouting. Because every family gathering felt like walking barefoot over broken glass while smiling for the camera. I didn't even know I was invited to the will reading. The envelope arrived 3 days after the funeral, no note, just the date, time, and address in Mr. Connor's familiar handwriting. For a moment, I wondered if it was a mistake. Maybe they meant to send it to Ken. Or maybe it was just one last cruel joke. But Eli, he wanted to go. He looked up at me with those wide, steady eyes and said, "We should go, Mom. Maybe there's something you need to hear." I don't know how a 10-year-old carries that kind of wisdom. But Eli always has, like he sees the world in ways the rest of us can't. So he came. I wore the same black dress I hadn't touched since my mother's funeral. He picked out his own button-up. I braided his hair with trembling hands that morning, and he told me I looked beautiful. He didn't know I'd barely slept. That I was terrified. They all thought they knew who I was. Karen, the perfect daughter, the one who stayed, who helped, who made sure everyone saw her helping. She told the story. So many times it became gospel. Julia abandoned us. Julia couldn't handle real life. Julia ran away. They never asked why I left. Never cared. They didn't know Dad stopped speaking to me when I refused to stay in a marriage that was breaking me. That when I showed up at his door with Eli and a suitcase, he shut the door without a word. Uncle Rick parroted Dad's bitterness. Family doesn't quit. Blood is loyalty. Don't come back crying. And Karen, she soaked it all in. Used it. Made it a weapon. So I stopped trying. Built a quiet life for Eli and me. Simple. Honest. Safe. We didn't have much, but we had peace. Still, part of me held on to the smallest hope. That maybe at the end, Dad had seen something. Regretted something. Left something behind. Maybe that's why I opened the envelope. Maybe that's why I came. Now here we were. Eli hadn't spoken since we sat down. Just watched. Calm. Still. Like he was waiting for something. And then Mr. Connor cleared his throat and opened the folder. I whispered to myself, just get through it. Don't let them see you break. But Eli, he was sitting on something bigger than grief. And before the day was over, he'd prove he was the only one in that room who had ever truly listened to my father. I lost my daughter because I leave the primary residence and all its contents. Karen didn't even blink. But I could feel her satisfaction seeping across the table like an expensive perfume. She gave a sidelong glance to her husband, Neil, who offered a smug nod, the kind that said renovations were already dancing in their heads. To my brother Rick, the lake property, and all remaining shares in the family business. Rick leaned back like royalty, arms crossed, chin high. I watched him slide a cigar between his teeth, chewing the end like he'd already conquered something. Claimed it. Won. To Paul, my nephew, the vintage car collection. Paul, the same cousin who once locked me out of my own room at 9 years old just to watch me cry. That Paul. I bit down on the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted copper, trying not to let my face crack. Still no mention of me. Not even a crumb. Then came the blow I'd braced for. And as previously declared, my daughter Julia will not receive a portion of this estate. There it was. Cold. Final. Like a steel door slamming shut. I felt the impact in my chest. Eli, quiet beside me, slipped his small fingers into mine under the table. I hadn't realized my hands were clenched. His touch pulled me back, tethered me to something solid before I could drift too far. My heart pounded behind my eyes. My skin flushed hot. Around the room, I heard the sounds of smugness blooming. Karen let out a quiet, victorious scoff. Told you, she murmured to Neil. Uncle Rick shook his head, louder this time. Takes a certain kind of person to walk out on her own father. The others, the cousins, the family friends, stayed silent. But their silence carried its own sharpness. I stared down at the grain of the wood table. It twisted in spirals and knots, easier to look at than any of their faces. In my mind, the same hollow voice repeated, Why did I come? Why did I hope? And then, everything changed. Eli let go of my hand and straightened. I felt the shift before I saw it. His voice broke through the room like a match strike in the dark. Soft, steady, certain. You forgot the video he recorded. The room stilled. Karen blinked. Rick shifted. Even Mr. Connor, the lawyer, froze, pen hovering midair. What video? I whispered, barely audible. But Eli wasn't looking at me. His eyes were locked forward, like he already knew what was coming. Slowly, he reached into his backpack and pulled out a white envelope. Crumpled, sealed. My name written on the front. But beneath it, in unmistakable blocky handwriting, were the words. For the lawyer. Only if it gets ugly. My father's writing. I stared at it like it might explode. Eli, I breathed. Where did you get that? He looked up at me calm. Grandpa gave it to me. A while ago. Said to keep it safe. My pulse tripped. He gave it to you. Eli nodded. That day I went to visit him. Just me and him. You were at work. I remembered. That one afternoon, months ago. He'd gone with our neighbor to drop something off. I hadn't thought much of it. I had no idea they'd spoken. Mr. Connor reached out. May I? Eli handed the envelope over without hesitation. The room leaned in. Karen squinted at the envelope like it was written in code. Rick sat forward, cigar forgotten. For once, no one spoke. Connor carefully opened the flap. Inside, a USB drive. Small. Black. Ordinary. My stomach flipped. A folded note followed, also in Dad's handwriting. As Mr. Connor read it, I saw something shift in his face, a flicker. Not shock, not confusion, recognition. He cleared his throat. There is a video message from Charles Thomas, recorded before the final version of this will. It was to be played only if tensions arose. He glanced toward Karen, then Rick. Karen's face tightened. This is ridiculous. There was no video. He never said anything. Rick leaned forward, defensive. That could be fake. We don't know what's on it. Connor raised a hand calmly. The signature and handwriting are verified. It's time-stamped, and I'm legally bound to play it. He slid the drive into a sleek laptop on the desk. The screen flickered. The air changed. My hands clutched the armrests of my chair like they might hold me down if the floor gave out. Connor pressed play. The screen flashed black, then lit up. And there he was. My father. Older. Thinner. Wearing that navy sweater I gave him for his birthday. The one I never thought he'd kept. He sat at his desk, hands folded. That old antique globe in the background. His face wasn't hard or distant. It was tired. Human. And then he spoke. Hi, Julia. I stopped breathing. He looked right into the camera. His posture softer than I remembered. His voice careful. If you're seeing this, I'm gone. And I'm guessing things didn't go well. A bitter smile touched his mouth. I didn't expect peace between you and the family. I know what they think. I know what I said. And I was wrong. My throat closed. My vision blurred. I believed what Karen told me. I believed Rick. I thought you left because you didn't care. I didn't ask. I didn't listen. He looked down. His fingers twitched, the same nervous tick I had. You came to my door once. You had Eli with you. I shut the door without a word. You were trying to protect your son. I saw it as betrayal. But strength is showing up. It's walking away from what's wrong and walking toward what's right. You did that. You did what I never could. He paused, eyes glassy now. I spent years being proud. I thought silence was strength. I was wrong. And I lost my daughter because of it. I covered my mouth. I met Eli again later. That boy barely said a word. But when I asked about you, he looked at me and said, My mom is the safest place in the world. My chest cracked wide open. Charles Thomas, my father, looked straight into the camera and said, Julia, if this message is being played, give her what she's owed. Give her what she built. She didn't walk away from this family. We walked away from her. Silence swallowed the room. No one looked at each other. Not Karen. Not Rick. Even Connor looked shaken. But me? I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt seen. I couldn't stop being right long enough to love you. I couldn't stop being right long enough to love you the way you needed. My father said, looking directly into the camera. But I won't let my last act be pushing you away again. He cleared his throat, steady now. So I changed the will. A gasp rippled through the room. Someone's chair creaked, Rick's maybe. Karen muttered something under her breath, but I didn't catch it. I barely heard anything at all except my father's voice, soft, deliberate, echoing louder than all the years of silence before it. I've left the house to you and Eli. The savings. The retirement fund. It's yours. There's a college trust for Eli, too. I know it doesn't fix what I broke, but I want you to have peace, the kind I never gave you while I was alive. He paused, then leaned in closer, as if he needed me to really hear this part. And if they're angry, let them be angry. You earned this. You lived through all of it, and never stopped being a mother. That's more than I ever managed. My throat closed up. I could hardly breathe. I'm proud of you, Julia. I love you. Always did. I just didn't know how to show it. And then, just before the video faded to black, he added softly, like it was only for me. Take care of my grandson. Tell him thank you. The screen went dark. No music. No credits. Just silence, real, full, almost sacred silence. No one moved. I sat still, hand over my mouth, tears trailing down my cheeks. I hadn't even realized I was crying until I felt them fall. Something heavy inside me, something I'd carried for too many years, lifted. After all the noise, the exile, the blame, he had finally heard me. And now, no one could take that away. No one spoke. Not Karen. Not Rick. Not the cousins or the family friends who had once smiled politely while pretending not to see me. Even Mr. Connor, the lawyer, sat frozen, hand hovering over the mouse like ending the video had paused time itself. Maybe it had. I don't know how long I sat there. My hand still covered my mouth, as if to hold in the storm. My cheeks were soaked. But then, Eli's small hand slipped into mine again. He wasn't crying. He just looked up at me with a quiet, knowing smile, like he'd been waiting for this moment, for the truth to finally take shape. I leaned down and kissed the top of his head. My heart ached with something too big for words. Love, relief, grief, all tangled together. Across the room, Karen stood abruptly. Her chair screeched against the floor. She grabbed her bag, hands shaking, and walked out without a word. Neil followed, face flushed, mumbling to himself. Rick stayed seated, jaw tight, eyes blank. When he finally stood, he looked like he wanted to argue, but even he knew there was nothing left to say. My father had spoken, and that truth, that raw, irreversible truth, left no room for debate. The others filtered out one by one. Some couldn't meet my eyes. A few offered small nods, respect or pity, I couldn't tell. And then, it was just the three of us. Mr. Connor closed the folder gently and cleared his throat. "There will be some paperwork," he said quietly. "But everything is in order." I nodded. What else could I do? He offered a genuine, kind smile, then left us alone. The silence that followed wasn't like the silence I'd grown used to. This silence didn't sting. It didn't echo with shame or erasure. It felt whole, like something had settled, like I could breathe. I looked at Eli, still holding my hand, still looking at me like I was the strongest person in the world. But really it was him. He was the brave one, the one who carried that envelope like it was nothing, even though it was everything. We stayed for a while. I'm not sure why. Maybe I needed time to process it. Maybe I just wanted to sit in the only room where, for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged. My father's voice still echoed in my mind. "I'm proud of you." 3 words I never thought I'd hear. Words I needed more than I ever admitted. For years, I had carried blame, guilt, silence. I was erased from the family story, rewritten out of existence. But not anymore. Now I was seen, heard, remembered. I turned to Eli. "Thank you," I whispered. He tilted his head. "For what?" "For being braver than me. For holding on to something that mattered." He smiled. "I just wanted you to hear him." And I had. Not just in the video, but in the quiet that followed. In the space it created. In the peace it left behind. Because that's the thing about truth. It doesn't always arrive when you want it. But when it does, it changes everything. So no, I didn't walk out of that room broken. I walked out holding my son's hand, my father's words still pulsing in my chest. I walked out whole. And that silence, it finally meant something.